Well, joining me now for more insight into the significance of this meeting is Cheng Li, Director of Research and a Senior Fellow at the John L. Thornton China Center in the Foreign Policy Program at Brookings. He is a Director of the National Committee on U.S.-China Relations. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think these two leaders will be trying to achieve at this summit?
Well, there are three levels of objectives for both leaders. And on the first level is about concrete issues or issue of the days, such as North Korea and cybersecurity and U.S.-China economic relationship. And for China also, there's a concern about the East China Sea, particularly related with Japan. But this is the first level. The second level is because of a private setting, they want to create kind of a conducive, friendly environment to build up mutual respect, mutual understanding, maybe even mutual trust. This is, again, personal relationship. On the third level is the strategic thinking about whether they can build what Chinese called new type of major state or major power relationship, which should be emphasized on cooperation rather than confrontation.
Is there enough common ground here for these leaders to make progress? Because this is not the first time they've met, of course. President Xi has been here before as a vice president. But in terms of temperament, can they do business, or are we going to see some very testy exchanges?
Well, I think that certainly there's some different views on certain issues. But by and large, there's a more common interest, common concerns, even in the three issues I mentioned: North Korea and economic relationship, and even cybersecurity is also China's interest to have this kind of discussion. Of course, that China will argue that the single out of China as a target is absolutely unfair, like what today's Wall Street Journal report about the Americans' own civil rights problems, the cybersecurity interfere American civil liberty. So it's a global issue. And so certainly China is willing to talk about that. China could be a victim, and Chinese government argue that China is always a target as well. So they have a lot of common ground to talk about that. But in terms of kind of mutual respect, certainly that this is the emphasis of this meeting. I think that the environment, this kind of 6 or 7 hours for private discussion, certainly provide a very conducive environment to achieve that objective.
Right. In terms of cyber security, which you've mentioned, do these two sides have less common ground and more common differences?
Well, I think in terms of intellectual property rights, I think President Obama will emphasize that certainly American companies that complain a lot, as in many ways that the U.S. maybe is in a more advanced stage in terms of reinforce these kind of patent rights and also intellectual property rights. But for China's side, it's also China's interest to improve, because some of the disputes, and actually 90% of disputes of intellectual property rights occur among Chinese companies. So it's China's own interest to improve in that area. But at the moment, I think that it's a more concern with the foreign companies, such as American companies. They wanted to push China to improve the record in this area.
Okay, so they have their work cut out. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.